So it's really a win-win. It is an exponentially better deal.
So, Guy, I wanted to talk to you about this Nippon-U.S. Steel deal and a bit about your governor, Josh Shapiro's political future. But let's start with steel. This is a merger that was opposed by both Donald Trump and Joe Biden during the campaign. Now it's endorsed by Trump and by your Democratic governor, Josh Shapiro. So what changed to make this deal so popular?
I think a few things. One is it's crystal clear that the business is going to receive an enormous multi-billion-dollar investment in upgrading, which indicates that this is not a short-term fix. This is a long-term investment. We're going to be making steel in Pittsburgh for decades, if not longer. So I think the overwhelming amount of the investment changed it. I think the increased amount of investment, and I think the clear understanding that it will be American management and American leadership that will be driving the production of it. So we have more money, permanent jobs, and American management. Now it's an excellent deal.
Yeah, so what happened, I guess, was that the Nippon said they would increase the amount of money they were going to put into U.S. investments. I think it was like $14 billion or something that was the raise. And then, as you say, there's what they call a golden ticket, which you'll have to tell me what that is. But there's going to be an American CEO for the company and a majority of Americans on the board. But
Correct.
So if I got that right, but what is this golden ticket?
The idea that if it falls apart, the investment dollars would remain.
Huh.
There's sort of if you sort of like a bank, a penalty for early withdrawal. If for some reason this falls apart, there's still money left for the steel plant and the workers in the community. So it's really a win-win. It is an exponentially better deal.
And why do you think this was so important to Nippon that they would keep, pursuing this and make these what at least the Trump administration considers major concessions?
Well, I think twofold. One is they want access to our manufacturing. They want a say and an ability to access the steel made in America in one of the places in the world that's been making steel for a long time. I think second is it strengthens the ties between Japan and the United States in a world of instability, with some suggesting that America doesn't want to be engaged in the world. This is strengthening a relationship now that is decades old between Japan and the United States. So I think for them, it's a financial benefit, it's an asset benefit, but it's also a foreign policy benefit, which is why I think folks in both countries wanted this to happen, and I'm glad it has.
And so, on this security issue, a lot of people didn't buy this. I mean, Japan has been our major ally. They've got huge investments in the U.S. I mean, it's a very strong relationship. How real, in your view, was the sort of national security component of the argument, and how much of it was just sort of domestic politics or labor politics?
Well, I think Andrew, those all played a factor. I do think that it was a foreign policy issue. I still think, particularly here in Pennsylvania, where COVID and the COVID sanctions lasted a lot longer, I think there's still a concern that things that are important to our day-to-day life come from other places, be it China, Japan, Vietnam, the things we need. And steel is, in the DNA of Pennsylvania as much as anything else. And the idea that we would either see a steel plant closed or have a steel plant that was owned by a foreign company or country, even if it was an ally, symbolically and tangibly meant a great deal that it remain with American leadership. So I do think part of it was emotional, but part of it was very real to the workers and to Pennsylvanians, that this be something that, heaven forbid, in time of war or economic emergency, we could get our hands on this steel, and this ensures that.
And how does it affect the politics of Pennsylvania, which is this purple state? It was so important in the last election. Certainly will be important again. Who wins by this? I mean, because it's Trump got the deal across the goal line, but like I said, your governor endorses it, and it seems to be sort of bipartisan.
So I think that Trump wins. I hate to look at these things, right? You're right to ask it. I hate to reduce it to partisan politics, but the reality is this is a win for Trump. It's also a win for Trump in his remaking of the Republican Party. in terms of welcoming in the men and women who make things. What were formerly thought of as blue-collar union workers that were the backbone of the 1980s Democratic Party. They're now the backbone of the 2020s Republican Party. And I think you now will have thousands of people at this plant, but also tens of thousands of people that supply it. And for your folks listening across the country, Pittsburgh and that region is also home to a Saudi Arabia's worth of natural gas. And you need pipes and you need infrastructure to go and get the gas and to ship the gas and to turn that gas into everything from steel down to Under Armour shirts. So it's an enormous win for the Republican Party. I think for Shapiro, this showed yet again, he has one eye on Pennsylvania and one eye on Iowa and New Hampshire. He was very late to the party. He tried to remain out of it and sort of just said, I'm rooting for a good conclusion. And he has jumped on now. I think that means now that the deal is set, he'll make sure on the Pennsylvania side of it, it'll work. But I think it underscored what many of us have seen, which is because he's looking to not only Pennsylvania, but nationally, he goes into these major issues with a great deal of caution. As we say, he leads from behind.
You're listening to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth. I'm here with Guy Ciarocchi. He is a contributor to Real Clear Pennsylvania, an expert on all things having to do with Pennsylvania politics. So yeah, Josh Shapiro, presidential bid in the outing. What's going on in the governor's mind right now?
So I think he continues to try and govern in Pennsylvania hands off. It is very much leading from behind. He gives speeches and leaves his staff in the legislature to work out the details. He hasn't been really getting his hands dirty. You don't see him in the Capitol building. You see him a lot out shaking hands, kissing babies. And I think when he speaks to larger issues or takes pictures, it's very much of a mindset of, will folks like RealClear, will other national media capture those pictures or those messages? I think he's trying to have the best of both worlds. We'll see how long he can be successful in that sort of being around big issues, but not really getting his hands dirty on these major issues. He talks about school choice, but he doesn't really push for it. He wants the steel plant to survive, but he's not necessarily shuttling back and forth to Pittsburgh and Tokyo to make it happen. It'll be interesting to see if that strategy of sort of being around issues, but not being at the table when they come together, whether that will work for him. I think he's trying to do it so that he can straddle both sides and never be on the wrong side of an issue.
And yeah, I mean, that's hard to run for president and be totally cautious. And he's in that sort of moderate lane, I guess, if you want to think of the Democratic Party, which I think is getting kind of crowded, for one thing. Lots of governors and lots of people trying to sort of move to the center where Shapiro is sort of identified, I guess. And I'm wondering, you know, how if you're Josh Shapiro, how do you view the race in those terms? I mean, is there a clear shot for him, or does he have to move left? Does he have to move right? What do you think his strategy is?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent observation. My sense of him as a candidate for governor and now as governor is that he tries to keep both one foot planted in the progressive lane and one foot planted in the moderate lane. And I think he's trying to, if you will, you know, he's riding on two skis and hoping he doesn't hit a tree. He wants to be able to pivot to either lane. Does he want to run to the left of Gavin Newsom or to the right of Gavin Newsom? Does he want to run to the left of Tim Walz or the right of Tim Walz? So he's moderate in his tone and his appearance. As we say, you know, he wears a Brooks Brothers suit, but doesn't wear a tie. So that sort of embodies who he is. He sort of is in both of those camps. He doesn't talk in the harsh terms that a lot of folks here come out of Washington, but he's spending us into debt. He talks about school choice, but has not, in fact, vetoed the only piece of school choice legislation while he's increasing funding to public education. He wanted the Steel deal to work out, but he didn't want to pick a side in how it got done. So I think what you're seeing is he's going to do that until he's forced to pick a lane, and it's going to be up to Democratic Party leaders and Democratic voters to decide in Pennsylvania, do we like a governor who doesn't have his attention here And nationally, will they let him ride both lanes, or will eventually Gavin Newsom, Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, will somebody force him to pick a lane, and will he be comfortable there?
Yeah, well, Guy, we're going to have to leave it there. This has been great. I want to thank you for being on. I've been talking with Guy Ciarocchi. He is a contributor to RealClear Pennsylvania. You can read his stuff there. He's also a senior fellow at the Commonwealth Foundation in Pennsylvania. Guy, thanks for being on the program.
Thanks. I enjoy talking about Pennsylvania, which stays in the news even between presidential elections.
It certainly does. We'll be checking back with you again, I'm sure. Hey, you're listening to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth. That's our program for today. Have a great evening, and we hope to see you back here tomorrow.